Here we are for another episode of the Drop In Podcast. This is the first time, I suppose, we've done it with two guests. And it's kind of the first time we've done a special of sorts, in inverted commas, where we're going to be talking about a specific project or event rather than just getting the life story of a guest. But joined here by Danny MacAskill and Robbie Meade. How's it going, boys?
Very good, thanks. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's a bit of a random one, isn't it? We've literally spent the last 6 months together. Well, longer for me and Danny, pretty much. Yeah, chatting a lot. So we're here to chat some more.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're here to chat about the video, The Slabs, which you guys obviously made together, that came out a couple of weeks ago. How's the sort of general feedback been going, and how's it been received?
It's been cool. Yeah, it's always good to have new videos out, you know. Suppose we just, it wasn't exactly really sort of well planned out like some of the other films. It was kind of last minute. So, just sort of cool to spend some time in Skye with all you guys. And it's good.
Yeah, it's about to give you guys a bit of a backstory. I suppose it was myself, Danny, Robbie, Rory Semble, who's been working for us, Andy Lawrence, who was flying the racing drone, and Dave Mac doing photos. But I guess it'd be cool to hear from both of you guys to give everyone an idea of just how the whole project came to be, and how did you end up on top of a big steep slab in Skye?
Pretty last minute, really, wasn't it? We had the whole month of September planned, and then what was it, 2 weeks or a week before, everything got cancelled because of COVID, and then we ended up just last minute, a couple of random projects, and that was one of them. Yeah,
I mean, I'd kind of known about the slabs for a couple of years, I think. My friend John Smith on Skye from Skye Adventure had mentioned about these kind of mythical pieces of rock in the middle of the Epucuens, and as everything kind of fell through in September, thought we'd go and check them out, see if there was going to be a rideable kind of lineup there. So, that's what we did. And I kind of went over with my friends, James Sutton and Douglas Sutton, who I grew up with on Skye. And we just kind of went and the dream was to basically find like a line that goes from a high point all the way to the bottom, and that I could kind of join all together, not ride it all at once, because you're always going to have to, well, the drone batteries probably weren't going to last that long, and to film it you're always going to have to do it in like a montage. But I actually kind of wanted to legitly try to ride the whole thing, so luckily there was some kind of line there. So
it's pretty nuts. So coming from someone who was there and witnessed it, it's definitely hard to kind of translate. Just not to say that you didn't do a good job, Robbie, but like it is just, I guess it's difficult for all filmers, and it's something they're always battling with, is like figuring out a way of showing just how steep something is when it comes to showing it on film.
Yeah, definitely. To be honest, I don't think you could do it justice. Yeah. I think you have to be there to, like, I don't know if you can feel exposure on screen. I guess you got to almost like stand there, sort of look around and feel it. Yeah. Maybe 360 stuff in the future would sort of give that feeling. Yeah. A bit more. Yeah,
I'd say, I mean, in the BTS especially, you can see, it's when you see everybody else clambering on the rocks as well, it gives it some bit more context. It's the feeling when you're on the slabs, you definitely feel gravity, I find. Like, I mean, especially on the bike, it's because everyone's on you're always on the brakes, and you're just trying to make sure that the grips, you're not braking that, you can't break that point where you start going like terminal or accelerating at any time. So you kind of could constantly feel the pull to the bottom.
Yeah, I think normally like on high stuff it's flat. Typically you can stand on the edge of something, because it's flat. You don't have that feeling of like getting pulled off of it. Yeah. And I think because everything is just a slab and it's a slope, your feet are always at an angle and you're always sort of wanting to fall off. Yeah. Well, you don't want to fall off.
But I think that's like one thing I felt was like, you can basically just never relax from as soon as you like step foot on that like first little piece of slab, from when you basically walk off the end of it at the end of the day. It's like, you can obviously find little flattish bits and like chill, but you're just kind of, you can never, I guess it's kind of like your primal chimp inside of you, like sensing at least like a sort of base level of fear for the whole day.
Definitely. Yes. I think, well, especially when we turned up. So you didn't really tell us much about what it was going to be like when we turned up. So we were not don't know, it was a bit of a surprise seeing how much we actually had to climb up and stuff.
Yeah, I was feeling pretty. I suppose when I went to go and check it out, you know, you kind of did the usual clambering around, and of course I was going to be confident enough to actually try to ride down it. So I thought, it'd be all right. But then when everybody did turn up, I was like, oh yeah,
with kit.
Yeah, with kit and no ropes and not having the experience on the rock as well. That's the big thing I think about the Coolins is of course the Gabbro rock that they're made out of. It's this amazing
grip,
kind of porous, really sort of clean, strong kind of rock. And when you walk on it with 510s or with good tires or whatever, then it just feels, well, even you guys can probably vouch for it.
I think that was what the crack with it is you basically get on it and it's pretty terrifying at first, but you slowly, which I'm sure it was like on the bike, so you like sort of slowly build confidence on it, and not that you get complacent, but it's kind of easy to get complacent by the end of it, and you're just like cutting around. You're like, oh, there's a massive drop down there, but
yeah, definitely a shot. Well, it's surprising how grippy it is actually. To be fair, like normal rock, you'd sort of slide off.
Oh,
you can feel the sort of like your feet wanting to like slide a little bit.
Yeah, until you hit a wet patch.
Yeah, wet patch or the basalt or whatever that runs. There's like veins of that.
Oh, that kind of algae kind of.
Aye, yeah. And there's a different coloured. Yeah, there's a different type of rock in there that you kind of want to watch out for, especially if it's wet.
Yeah, basically, you've obviously touched on the sort of context. We had another plan of making a different kind of video, which we probably won't go too much into because hopefully after the whole COVID thing subsides at some point and that project will still happen. But it was very much a sort of last minute. We had crew ready to go, so it was a case of just kind of like quickly moving all our sort of resources and efforts onto the slabs. So it was a lot, even though you'd went to see it, it was a little bit sort of last minute, and it was very much a case of like,
ransom.
Yeah, you heard about this thing called the slab. I think you guys had talked about it maybe a little bit between yourselves, and the next time we knew it, we were on top of it. When was the first time that Danny had like mentioned it to you?
I think back in, was it May, we were going to do another project.
Oh yeah.
And that got cancelled as well. Because we had two projects at the start of the year that both got cancelled. And I think we were sort of just discussing ideas on WhatsApp, and you sent through some screen grabs of what the slabs were going to be, which was quite funny. And then we sort of forgot about it, carried on talking about e-bikes or something else.
Standard.
Yeah. Standard 2020.
Standard Danny chat these days. But yeah, you'd like shared images of it and stuff like that basically, but it was kind of still, so it had been mentioned, but it was basically in the back burner really, wasn't it? And the whole plan was to do a different kind of project with more crew from basically all over the world, which obviously because of COVID couldn't happen. So we kind of scrambled stuff together, and the next thing we knew it, we're at the top of that slab. How did that's what's for Daniel, how did it feel to like actually first, because you literally hadn't you'd been up there on your feet, but you'd never had your bike up there. And then we're straight into like, you'd made some pretty bold claims, and then it was like, right, now it's time to.
I mean, the start for me seemed pretty, well, not relatively straightforward, but it was quite nice riding. You know, I had a couple of drops as well, which I quite liked. Because otherwise the line, the very, first shot would have probably been like a bit more straightforward riding wise. So the kind of drops added a little bit much sort of trials in there, wee wall ride, which I quite liked. It's almost like a squirrel catcher into the line, as you call it in trails or whatever. But I mean, I'd ridden on the rock up there before, back in 2014 filming The Ridge. And I'd kind of ridden some in Glencoe as well. And up in Corrylagan, there's some slabby stuff, which I'd kind of spent a wee bit of time on, and I knew how confidence inspiring the Gabbro was. Even if it's wet, it's still pretty grippy. So yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was cool to have Andrew Lawrence there with a racing drone, and it's the first time I'd worked with a racing drone. And just cool feeling being up there, good weather, rocks were dry, kind of ready to sort of tackle this sort of mad idea, I suppose.
Yeah, for like you, Robbie, what was it like to kind of get to the top? I guess the whole project is quite different for you because obviously you're used to directing as well as filming a lot of stuff, but it was very much a case of like directing at arm's length with Andy and FPV and stuff. in such a mental location. How did it kind of feel to get to the top? And
it's pretty ideal, to be fair, because I didn't have to have as much kit as normal. I didn't have a bag full of lenses and batteries and whatnot. I just had GoPros, and Andy had all his heavy drones, so it's pretty good. Me and Andy worked for years, so it's easy to sort of just trust him to, he's going to do a good job, so it's super easy. But it was cool, like as soon as you watch back the first shot, you're like, oh, this is actually going to be quite special.
Yeah.
Because really it was just going to be like, oh, let's just go and do this quick little project, go up the slab, we'll shoot some stuff with some GoPros, release it next week.
Yeah. It's like classic us things, just like grow arms and legs.
Yeah. I think, though, to be fair, we probably should have been a bit more aware of how good it was going to be from seeing the pictures.
Yeah.
But we sort of went in with it. It's going to be just like a quick, fun little project, cool to release something quick.
Yeah, as soon as kind of saw the first, just looking in the back of the GoPro at the first shot, you're kind of like, oh, that's actually, like, it just looks really cool. It's so dynamic with the racing drone kind of zooming around with all that scenery, the kind of contrast in the rock, colour of jacket, bike, everything was just kind of cool, if I don't say so.
Yeah, I think it was almost like, it sounds ridiculous and ironic, but not to say that it's like disappointing when you see how good the shots are, but when you do see that, when we did see those like first shots, it was almost like, this is class, but it kind of just meant that it just gave the whole project like a different kind of complexion and like raised the stakes to kind of make sure you did it justice. And pretty much probably from then on, from that first moment, we probably realized that this like 1 day project was no longer a 1 day project. We really need to like make it good enough, as good as it could be, basically.
Yeah, well, if Andy hadn't crashed the drone, then it might have been a 1 day project.
That was actually true. That's probably, which is I guess the perfect segue into talking about that, because we were basically on top of the slab, got maybe how many shots? Like
2 shots, I think. We shot the trailer and the intro shot.
Yeah, and it took me quite a while to get through that first.
Yeah, well, the first line was 45 seconds of riding, I think.
Or more, yeah.
So it's like a long section to sort of piece together for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we shot those 2 shots and that was it.
Yeah. And then obviously we should obviously say to people, hopefully they'll have already watched the slabs, and if they haven't watched the behind the scenes video, they can go and watch that as well, either before or after they listen to this, and they'll see the poor wee drone disappearing
flying off the edge.
At least it was a drone and not Danny, though, to be fair.
I know. It was to be
fair, I think Andy might have preferred it to be Danny than his drone.
It's kind of one of those, I suppose the emotions are, I was like, hopefully we've got I'd seen some other drones in the back of his backpack, but I didn't really realise
if they were for spares
or what the deal was there. And then, of course, seeing all the footage flying off the side was a bit frustrating, but
kind of gave it a bit of reality as well, I think. I don't know, for me anyway, watching that fall off the cliff and just roll for, I don't know.
It's probably still going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty mad.
Funny.
But yeah, so obviously that set us back a fair bit, probably like an hour or 2 hours or something.
Yeah, I think probably it took you an hour to get through, just piece the first section together.
Yeah.
And then maybe
and we were already
30
at
minutes.
Like kind of probably like 1:12.
Yeah, it definitely took us longer to get to the top as well, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was true. Well, we'd only organised a fishing boat to take us over there the night before, so what did we get him to? It was 7 o'clock. Yeah. That seemed like a reasonable, when you're asking at 10:30 at night, 7 a.m, sort of seemed like as early as we could sort of justify asking for, I think.
Local fishermen pulling in local favours to get us actually across there.
Yeah.
And I think we were getting, it was actually, obviously, you almost always have deadlines set by the sun essentially when you're filming. But with the slabs, we actually did have like a hard deadline, in that we didn't have any phone reception. The guys in the boat didn't have any phone reception. It was very much a case of like, we will be back here at, was it 6 or 7?
7.
I think it was 6.
Oh, 6 maybe.
I think it was 6. But did we manage to like radio him or something? I can't remember.
I think I tried to radio him, but
we couldn't get through.
Picking up. So yeah, we had that sort of hard deadline. So we just had to kind of keep cracking. But yeah, I guess we did start making pretty good progress. But in terms of the I think probably most people are asking, I'm sure Robbie and Danny can talk about this, is dealing with the sort of, well, Robbie having to watch Danny take the risks and Danny having to take them themselves. Like how does it sort of feel to ride down steep stuff, but not only steep stuff, but steep stuff with humongous drops on one side of them?
I mean, from my side, I'd say the first day I had these kind of lines in mind that I really wanted to ride, and some of the parts of it were right on the edge of the cliffs. And I think I kind of got a feel for the tires, kind of got a feel for the rock, and definitely wasn't able to commit to dropping into the full things that the way I wanted to do them. So you kind of, it ended up on the first day being more of trying to film a montage of getting down the rock, kind of filming the parts that I was able to do. But I wouldn't say, I don't know, I find being up in the hills like that not very, like, actually really relaxing. I don't know, there's something about being on the edge of drop. Maybe ignorance is bliss. Yeah. But when it's practical, not going over your head, sort of no tricks involved kind of riding, and you're just riding down the stuff. Quite
tangible, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just about being in control, and you're kind of used to that. You're kind of maybe used to doing sort of more dramatic versions of being in control, where your life's maybe not at risk. But I find it generally quite relaxing to ride down into some of these exposed lines, and if anything, having a big drop on the side makes it in some ways easier from my side, because I just have to be careful and not fall off a cliff. But from a footage point of view, from a film point of view, it's like doing the biggest banger trick ever kind of thing. You know what I mean? So like I feel comfortable and in control. But of course, the feeling that you guys must get watching must be a different feeling. When your pals obviously probably trust that I know, it's within my kind of ability, but I'd find it hard watching you guys do it, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a unique feeling watching stuff like that firsthand. But I think for the slabs, like as a rider myself, I did kind of have quite a bit of confidence, maybe not 100%, that it was going to be all right. I think it's more those ones where you can kind of like, depending on what your vantage point is, because obviously Danny in his head is maybe like clocked like a bit where the rock runs out or something, and you're like suddenly thinking, has he noticed it? But he obviously has. It's kind of like being in a car with someone, isn't it? But you had some pretty funny moments, Robbie, in the BTS. We were talking about literally trying to film stuff without your eyes open because, yeah, you basically don't want to watch.
Yes, I think, well, most of it was fine. I think 90% of it was fine. It was just that last slab. And on the first day we went up, it started raining as well. So it was pretty slip. It was getting a bit slippy.
Yeah.
And the first slab had no runoff. It was just one sort of slab of rock that went down into a boulder field.
Yeah.
So you could sort of picture, well, my imagination could picture what...
running wild.
Yeah, it was definitely running wild. Imagining what would happen. And then just before you dropped in, you sort of tipped over, you lost balance and tipped over, and you hadn't done that all day.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of made me quite nervous. And I think this was also one of the only shots I actually filmed. So I stood on the side trying to film you come down, and then you just started skidding. I was like, oh no, this is not good. So I just had to close my eyes.
Did you actually close your eyes?
I think I closed them and opened them straight away because I was like, well, I'm just going to do a bad job.
Well see where it goes.
Just close them if I get to the bottom.
Hey, Danny probably closed his eyes as well. Like.
Yeah. And luckily you put your foot down and it was all right.
It wasn't like, when it started raining, it was definitely getting on the limit a wee bit. But the idea was to try to just get a film done in the day. Mm-hmm. So, as I said, kind of montage of trying to get down. It would be nice to just have an end shot of the slab, the bottom slab. To be honest, even looking at the full line that I'd sort of dreamt about riding on that slab, it was hard to picture, with what else I'd been tackling that day, it was hard to picture whether or not I was going to be able to even do it in one kind of line. So just trying to get that bottom part would have just finished the film.
Yeah.
And but it was definitely on the limit. Well, and some. And as soon as I got on the bike started accelerating a wee bit, which is exactly what you don't want. You just want it to be completely in control the whole way. And then, but I managed to kind of do a wee skid turn just by Robbie.
All those skids as a kid finally coming to pay off, like big 90 skid.
But we still had probably about 90 feet of descent or something to get to the bottom, which would have been.
Yeah,
I think the BTS kind of shows it, but like say, it's just impossible to show just how steep that stuff is.
Yeah, if you started running on that, then it would be.
You couldn't.
you'd be doing like 60 mile an hour into a boulder field at the bottom, which would.
I don't think you'd even run. I think you'd do like 4 steps and you just end up taking off.
But not on my feet. I'm meaning just on the trying to just ride. I'm just meaning trying to ride out on the bike, and you just.
Oh, you couldn't.
It would just be a ragdoll mess, I think. But anyway, it didn't happen. So.
Yeah, so that was the first day was basically. First day was basically picking all the sort of not easy. I don't want to say easy lines, but basically finding a way down.
I think we did everything.
Pretty much.
Yeah. First day, everything by the bottom got done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't drop in quite as high as I'd liked on some of the more exposed stuff.
Yeah.
I had to kind of go down in a way. I managed to get through them, but not quite how I dreamt. But
yeah, so we got the bulk of the sort of route done, and then the 1 day project quickly became the 2 day project, which is still relatively. That's quite short for a Danny project, as we've since found out for the last few weeks. But yeah, it was a case of basically waiting for another weather window, because I think we were booked to stay in Skye for like another 10 days, and it just rained so much we ended up leaving, and then we came back a couple of weeks later and got a sunny day, went back, and yeah. I can't even remember off the top of my head, did you then reshot quite a lot because the weather was even better, wasn't it? In terms of like riding different lines.
I think we reshot everything bar the intro.
Yeah,
I think
Andy was too scared.
That was the one after riding off his drone last time. Yeah, didn't want to do it again. Well, we didn't have as many drones this time. I think we only had 2 spares.
Yeah, that's right.
I think
Crashed the rest.
Or 1 spare, no?
We had 2 spares to start. I think. And then we ended up again with 1 spare at the end of the day.
We killed another drone as well in the second.
Yeah, I managed to get some new tires for the second day. So I got some like softer compound, like downhill Continental Kaisers. And I was really keen to give them a test on the rock, because I mean the standard Kaisers are pretty soft, but I was on their limits, going into some of the really steep stuff before. But with the new tires, as soon as I got on, I was like, yeah, I was really keen to kind of get up to the high stuff to kind of drop right into the top of the really steep exposed kind of cliffs. And I was just delighted. Although because of the soft compound, the rock's pretty much like a cheese grater. So every run you were doing was physically seeing deterioration in the rubber, so it was... Yeah,
because they're essentially like Formula 1 tires, aren't they, where they're just like pure performance.
Yeah.
Like longevity's out the window.
I mean, any tire, even like, completely standard tires take an absolute beating on that rock. Your shoes, all your gear, everything just takes a beating on it. But, I'd have liked to have maybe done a bit of kind of sliding sideways, doing some different, more, not stylish stuff in the rocks, but, quite like the look of sort of sliding a bit around, but there was no skidding possible on those tires because they would just fall to pieces.
Yeah, it was pretty insane, like the grip that you were getting. Yeah. So she basically reshot some of the stuff because you wanted to do some different lines down the top parts as well as just have better weather, and then slowly worked her way down to what was the sort of elephant in the room, which was that sort of like final slab of doom that you'd already slipped on a few weeks before. And yeah, how did it finally feel to... Well, I know I've probably asked Robbie first, because I know I was absolutely shitting myself watching it after seeing what had happened.
Yeah, it was, I guess, coming back to it because we've seen it before, so you have a little bit more sort of fear from watching it already. I guess for us, we couldn't see it though, could we? So we were sort of like half peeking to try and watch it. We didn't really know what to do because you sort of feel a bit at loss, and helpless, because we're not filming, we're not looking at the shot through the racing drone goggles, so we just sat there
and we're
and
having
chilled.
to keep out shot as well, essentially.
Yeah.
It's not like we can go at the bottom and be like, I can say it now because not tempting, but like if something was to go wrong, it's not as if you could have been at the bottom to like help Dan if he had like crashed or whatever because you wanted to be a shot.
There's not much point being at the bottom.
Yeah, it was pretty terrifying though, wasn't it? Like trying to kind of glance over and see what's going on, but yeah.
It was a funny emotion for me doing it because I genuinely wasn't even scared or nervous really for it, you know, compared with how I normally am filming, you know, where I have been for the last few weeks filming this X Games part. And, you know, if I'm doing like tricks where involves like a new technique, I was just kind of waiting for the drone to be up, and I don't know, felt just completely calm and kind of going into it really.
I guess you're just so committed to it as well. And that even though you could obviously have walked away from it, but the fact that like you'd spent 2 days putting together amazing footage of this route, and it could still have been used for a clip if you didn't get that last descent, but it wouldn't necessarily have been in your head as well as video, the sort of full sort of finished piece that it was.
My dream was to really try to get across it's the middle of the very top, just as in the shot where you kind of drop out of the light, and then you have to make this traverse across the slab, which is the worst part because it's so blank. And I mean, even to be out there on foot, you know, with hands and feet on the rock, you really feel exposed. You know, there's nothing. But when you're on the edge of the tires, whilst trying to brake as well, because you're kind of traversing and going down, then you've got, you know, way less tire on the rock. So it was like it felt kind of like quite high wire-esque, you know, you were like I was just really trying to get across to the next part, and then sort of eke my way down the sort of far side. So, but yeah, totally. I actually just really enjoyed it. It was quite a powerful feeling being out there.
I'm glad you did.
I know. I mean, yeah, but I was quite confident. I mean, maybe it's the reason that I could do it. Like I felt confident in my ability to be in balance, and if things were going wrong, to like be calm about losing, you know, like you see me doing a little stoppy, trying to turn, and like I'm comfortable in that position where if I need to, I could kind of put a foot down and try to get my, you know, it's what you do in trials bike all the time. So, you know, you just try not to panic. That's the main thing.
Oh,
yeah.
Luckily you didn't, and luckily you made it down.
Yeah, it's a cool feeling.
Yeah, it's cool. It was definitely like a cool to sort of not only know that like such a good film's in the bag, but then also like I'm sure myself and Robbie can testify that it's also just a relief that Danny's still alive.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a relief that I didn't even know what we'd have done, to be fair.
Just leave me. Just leave me there.
Oh my God.
Not worth thinking about.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that's ignorance is bliss on that stuff. Like I said, it's...
To be fair, we weren't really messing around though up there either. Like you tested everything on like safe parts.
Yeah.
And you quickly realised it was all fine. So it's...
Yeah, I say that as like partly joking.
Yeah.
It was very much like a calculated. It is a calculated risk.
Oh yeah,
It's not.
You're not rolling into that. Like I was rolling into that, thinking, well, I might not make it to the bottom, but I'm not gonna, you know, like it seemed like a low probability that I was gonna fall off it. You know, it would have just been get to a point where I'm going, nah, that's too much. Feet down, you know, and you know, call it how it is.
Yeah.
I think so. But luckily it worked. It was pretty cool. I mean, yeah, those tires made such a difference, and just to eke my way through it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and did we lose a GoPro on the second day as well? Then yeah, we did, didn't we? On the
no, we lost a drone. Well, we didn't lose a drone. We had a drone crash, but we didn't lose anything.
Yeah, we got that one back.
Yeah,
it's just broken.
Yeah.
So luckily, we literally you did get the last shot with the last drone.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, because Andy crashed it whilst testing the last shot, didn't he?
But so that was basically all the clips in the bag. Back to the accommodation, and then I guess for this sort of less glamorous part of editing it all together, I think kind of already knew that you were on it something like pretty good. But I suppose that'd be an interesting sort of thing to discuss, is how important music is in accompanying.
Oh man,
I say important stroke complete nightmare of finding the right music. Like, you've obviously put a lot of sort of onus on finding the perfect music to go with all your videos that you've ever done.
I mean,
how was this one?
Yeah, I suppose I'm not talking on your behalf there, but the film was kind of going to roughly edit itself, because it was like a linear, storyline from top to bottom kind of thing. So the
music had to fit.
Yeah,
you couldn't. There was, I guess, normally you can use the song and then sort of use that to sort of base your edit around, and sort of move clips around, time it with the song.
Yeah.
But this was the other way around. You had to time the song to the film, which was the hard part.
Oh,
yeah, because it just immediately rules out like
99%
of all the music out there, because it's like, well, I don't know how many thousands of tracks.
It's 20
you
hours.
Probably watched that video with it laying over.
Oh my goodness!
I think there's 20 hours in the playlist or something.
Oh, really?
Or 21 hours.
Because the music's really what it really gives the film, like an emotion, I suppose, or like a feeling. So it was, just trying to find something. I was looking for something that had a wee bit more kind of goosebumps, that kind of first drone shot. It's just kind of really cool, kind of reveal. And then the long shot, you kind of feel like you're on this kind of bit of a journey down, but trying to find a track that had the right sections, that had the, ideally I had like a section that would fit this minute or however long the first shot was, and then kind of go into different sections, had some low points for the slow stuff where it breaks down and then comes back up. And we were pulling our hair out over it, weren't we?
Oh, it took
sorry
ages.
About
It's good.
Yeah, I guess it's like the main thing that meant that it took so much time to basically get it out was the music. Otherwise it could literally have been out within a few weeks of the shoot.
I mean, we had...
Do we spend a month looking for a song afterwards, and then another month or two trying to license that song?
Yeah.
And then that brought us to January, I think. Or like I think Christmas time we knew we got the song.
Yeah.
The song was licensed like by the end of December.
So I think like Arcade Fire, to use Arcade Fire, which is obviously the final selection that got used, to use Arcade Fire is probably something you've thought about for a while and looked at other videos, and wasn't necessarily like, probably wouldn't have expected to necessarily have the budget to have for this video, but the fact that it was just a sort of self-produced video was almost the reason that we were able to get that track, because I think they're maybe quite particular about who they licensed. They're obviously not just about the money, and it's more about what the video is, I think, for them. And that's the sort of vibe I got from speaking to them anyway. So how did it feel to kind of like actually hear that it was a possibility to use that track?
Yeah, it was definitely a relief, because we had tried so many different tracks to the footage, and so many good parts, the amazing intros, but it just missed the kind of the low point, or didn't have the right ending, or all this kind of different stuff. And then to finally get the No Cars Go track was pretty cool. I think it's another song jack from Skate video. I'm just slowly making my way through. It was in Fully Flared back in, was it 2008 or something like that? One of my favourite just films, I would say, of all time. It was really sort of iconic piece. And I think it's the second song I've used out of that film so far. So.
Just slowly working your way through it. Like.
Second, so yeah.
Surprised you're admitting to such things on a podcast. Like.
I mean, you guys, you got to have your inspirations, but I've loved Arcade Fire for years, and since 2010, looked at trying to use them for way back home, and used to ride street to them all the time. Back when I was working in the bike shop in Edinburgh, so pretty cool to actually have that track on a film now.
I guess it'd be interesting to hear how you guys actually ended up starting to work together. I know we briefly talked about it before we started recording. I tried to stop you, so you weren't giving it all away. How did you guys actually? Do you remember when you first shot together? first met?
It was back in 2012, working for Stu Thompson.
Yeah.
Working on that Chris Hoy piece.
That's right. In my skin suit, my aero helmet.
Yeah.
Trying to
First impressions.
So that was a project in the new
velodrome.
Glasgow velodrome, just named after Sir Chris Hoy, sorry. Yeah, and were you basically taken in as the Steadicam operator?
Yeah, so at the start, that's what I sort of specialised in, the Steadicam stuff.
Yeah.
So did that, yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. And then I suppose we really forged our time, our kind of working relationship during the filming of Imaginate. I think that was when that's
probably when Robbie really got a taster of what it's actually like to work with you.
Started losing my hair then as well, I think.
Yeah, never really fully recovered.
I just remember some days, like trying to do that ball. There was a few ones in that film, wasn't there? That I remember trying to do the ball front
There's
flip
definitely a few.
to the ball front flip to the railway track, and Robbie was using a Steadicam, which is before the kind of modern, more sort of gimbal stabilizers that you get nowadays for the like movies and whatever else. It's like a big long pole with weights in the bottom. You've got a Canon, I think it was a C300, quite a heavy camera on the top.
It's like a TV broadcast camera, essentially.
Yeah. And then I had to have tons of weight, and it's all held on this like one handle, one arm, a very delicate thing to use. And
like Robbie's like watching Danny explain what it is.
Yeah.
Is he explaining it correctly?
Yeah. And then I was trying to do tricks that were
really hard to use.
Well, yeah,
I think it is though. Like it's definitely like a lost art that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So now you see all of these gimbal shots, which sort of anyone can essentially do nowadays. There's like still a bit of skill to the movement, but you can give a gimbal to a kid in the street and they'd be able to do something fairly decent.
I mean, those Steadicams like completely transformed filming in the action sports world, really. It was a way of not just using a zoom camera or maybe using wide angle, sort of more skateboard style. You could kind of run with it, and you can manipulate the pole a wee bit so that you can actually kind of get tight in. But yeah, trying to do some of the technical lines that I was trying, where it's like 400 takes in a row with no rest. Yeah, that was the thing.
No rest.
Because you think, from my feeling, it's like it's the way my brain is. I'm like, the next one, surely, if you roll the dice enough, it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's not as if you can be like, oh, I'm going to practice this. Robbie, take a break. And then once I've kind of pulled it once, we'll come and do it. You're like, no, this is going to take a few hundred goes, and you just need to make sure you're filming it when it happens.
You've not messed up the shot. I guess it's a little bit more chilled nowadays with the gimbal, because you basically with the Steadicam you have one hand sort of balancing it and sort of adjusting sort of where it's pointing, and that's super delicate. So if you shimmy that a tiny bit, a couple of mil, it pans a couple of inches almost at the top.
Yeah.
So
very hard to do.
You've got to make sure that shot's
it's basically like a weight bearing plus. It's like it's not just a case of holding something heavy, that it's like holding something heavy whilst being delicate, which is definitely like an art.
And having this, I just having. But it was those times where I was going, we were going through it together, just over and over again. But I would always be asking, "Are you all right? Do you need rest?" It was like, no, just hiding it all, probably batteries almost running out, everything kind of really being on the limit. But we got them done in the end.
Yeah, I think the standout one is obviously, to give a bit of context, is it's the Imaginate set, which is obviously one of your biggest videos to date. We're in the Glasgow old Transport Museum, and the line that you're doing is the whole length of basically the museum, where you're doing like a front flip over the ball to land on a railway track which was already there.
Landing, so it's front flip onto the ball and then land two wheels to ride along the railway track to then get to a certain point about maybe 12 to 15 meters along the track to then 180 across the track. I did dream about trying to get up the platform, but that was just to try to get to the 180, and that would be a cut point. And Yeah, I mean, what did we work out? It was like,
I can't remember.
Was it 5 or 10 kilometers? Robbie ended up running with this camera next to me.
Did we not like work it out? And it was like, oh, Robbie's done like 7K, and then you're like, someone was like, well, actually, now he's also having to walk back.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh shit, we should need to double it then.
I think that's what it was. I think it was 5K, and then it doubled up to 10 or something.
So you basically done a 10K with your arms out holding like.
I don't think that was a bad one though. I think the pencil. The pencil one was a mission because that was over 2 days. I think we spent a whole day of just 300 tries.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, so that's basically like riding up the pencils,
the skinny
which were
pencil
telegraph
across.
poles.
Yeah, and then 180 across and then down.
Oh my goodness. It's funny thinking about those lines.
And that one was like 300 tries first day and then 250 the second day, and it was like the end of the day you pulled it.
I'm just a big phony, really, am I? You know. Just
I think it's good. I think it's one thing you've shown this year, especially with like the archive stuff that you've released on your channel, where it's good for people to see so that it isn't just something that happens overnight, and not just with actually getting the skills in the first place, but then even once you've started filming, it'll still take.
I don't know if it's the right way to go about it.
5 more days.
I think it's a good way for people to do it. I think it'd be better if more people did it like that, because I think if you cut the corners and try and do stuff quick, you can't sort of push the progression of the sport.
Yeah.
So I think it's like a good thing for the sport.
Well, maybe I am cutting the corners quick though, and rather than learning it beforehand, it's hard to learn some of the stuff.
There's commitment involved.
It's like how do you practice the ball onto a train track?
It's a way of going. I think with my own riding, like I have my riding level that, you know, we've all.
You can get when you go out riding street.
Yeah, you can have your sort of base riding level, but then it's pretty cool to kind of go right to the kind of fringes of your ability, trying to get something that you know is going to be really hard to put together in one go. But you know, if you try enough, pretty much 98% of the time, 99% of the time, we get it. But it might just take days. It's
kind of like getting a hole in one in golf or something, isn't it? Where like your skill can, like when you go so tech, not to take anything away from you, it's like you can only, the human's probably only capable of actually like consciously getting it to a certain level. And then some of the tricks, you then just need to have like a little bit of luck involved, and it's kind of like, I don't know, just putting it in the ballpark and then trying another 100 or maybe, well, definitely more than 100. What is it? Do you know what the most is? It'd be quite interesting to.
I think that one, the gymnasium run to sort of bump ghosty to bike.
You should probably explain what ghosty means to
people. Ghosty. Well, and we used to call it a ghosty when I was a kid, where you basically cycle along your bike and then you just push the bike from underneath you, and it rolls away, you know, upright.
Like a ghost cycling.
Yeah, like a ghost cycling. And then you would sometimes run and catch it if you could, or other times your bike would just fall over. But the idea was that in the gymnasium film, I had like a gymnastic springboard with like a pommel horse afterwards, with mats on the other side, which you tried in different configurations. The mats were mainly there for my bike. And the idea was that I'd push the bike, it would hit the springboard and then spring up the way. And then as the back wheel hit, it kind of put the bike up at like a 50-degree angle. The back wheel would catch the pommel horse and then do a front flip. And my dream was to then jump from the springboard and try to catch it midair, catch the bars, and then get on the pedals and land to flat on the other side. But after, I don't know, maybe 200 goes in the first day, I wasn't getting to the point where I was going to be able to catch that. So we started playing with trying to put my feet on it and then catching it. And I think I tried about 800 attempts or something like that at it. And my legs, because I don't run.
Did you not break your knee or something?
I bruised ended up like one of the muscles ended up like bruising my bone.
Like a repetitive.
Yeah, like a repetitive strain, because I literally never run, and you're also. I mean, if I ran as a mile right now, like at a decent pace, yeah, like the DOMs would be pretty serious in my legs, because I'm really not conditioned for running at all. So, trying to do this thing where I was like, it was almost like trying to run downhill as well, because you're kind of decelerating the body and then trying to accelerate and all sorts of stuff. But anyway,
It worked in the end. I love the idea of, if you haven't seen that clip, if someone's listened to this podcast without having seen it, they'll be like, literally like, what the hell is he
So the bike's like, I'd always dreamt of trying to make my bike, like I see it in skateboarding.
Do a flip without you, basically.
Yeah.
I guess it is kind of like a kick flip, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, I see it in skateboarding where...
They do it off a step, don't they? A lot of people will like do a ghost ollie almost at the bottom step and like no comply up.
Yeah, or but of course a bike doesn't roll properly. It'll roll for a certain amount of time, but then veer off and end up being just a silly idea. But
I know every time's different. I'm sure the emotions vary, but what's the typical feeling when you do actually pull a trick like that? Because sometimes, after being there myself, like sometimes it's maybe not quite the celebration you'd perhaps expect after getting it after, say, 300 goes, 600 goes.
I think I need to maybe learn to celebrate more, because I'm sometimes a bit moody when I do this stuff. But I think if it happened really fast, if you were doing like a real sort of banger, scary thing, and you just did it first, second, third go, then I think you'd be quite, like, I'd be stoked and jumping up and down. But once it goes past a certain part, especially if it's more trick based, and if I've been mucking around trying to do run ups and it's getting a bit more mentally challenging, fear starts picking up and just the emotions start running, then it just gets a bit more frustrating. And I know I'm going to do it. It's like a given that unless it starts blowing a hoolie or it starts raining or the sun goes down behind the hills, I'm going to do that trick that day. Yeah. But it just can be a bit of a mental battle to get my body to do what my mind knows it can do, kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's definitely an emotional roller coaster for yourself and watching it and
it's
everyone else involved.
If anybody listening if they've got any good tips for trying to
dealing with fear,
yeah, maybe I should be you're coming on looking to see how I deal with it, but not well.
You're still looking. Well, you must do it. You're obviously doing something right.
I don't know.
Managed to get there.
I'm just lucky to have that. I'm just lucky to have the right crew. I think if I wasn't doing this stuff with you guys, then it would be probably embarrassing to,
maybe that could be a good thing.
Yeah, maybe.
I'd say I observe that happening sometimes with our projects, where like if sometimes someone external from without the crew, like say comes like James.
Yeah,
from
there was a bit
the other day,
that.
And it's a bit like, right,
hammer time.
Yeah,
you just want to
somebody who's not in the bubbles watching might be talking about this. I need to like get it done.
Maybe I should start doing it live.
We should just start planning that on the sly. It's like texting, like gets.
You could do some sort of live stream. People pay in to watch.
Anything. I would do anything to be able to deal with it better.
I guess it's all relative though, because if you then, well, I suppose it would make you do scarier stuff, but then like sort of reward of it might still just kind of.
I don't think
correct itself for that, if you know what I mean.
I don't think I'd be trying scarier things, because I already feel like I kind of go, I feel like I push my kind of personal limit fairly hard, for where my riding level's at and the stuff I choose to try to do. But it's just this frustrating, annoying, instinctual fear that's within you, and it's just. I
guess it is just there to keep you safe.
Yeah, it was funny. It's funny how it doesn't kick in up on the slabs. I'm up on the heights. I'm just, because as long as the riding's like fairly straightforward, I find it so relaxing. It's just when you get lower down and I'm, just worrying about sort of breaking an arm or landing on my bum. Like my back's usually a bit delicate, so the idea of like landing ass first doing a front flip or something doesn't really appeal to me that day. So, but it's funny. Just, I don't know.
That's interesting. I guess that's a good time to ask Robbie, who's now a father. The boys were saying that we should ask who's easier to deal with, a newborn baby or Danny filming when he's having one of his meltdowns.
Depends on what day, really. Nah, it's not that bad. Having a baby, that is. No, I don't know. It's pretty pretty equal, I'd say.
Yeah. And I guess whenever it happens.
I can't really say anything.
I guess both. Kicking Robin. I guess both are rewarding in their own ways.
So when you're bottle feeding me, you're all right.
The harder something is, the more, the better it feels when it's. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
I think how you approach stuff is more calculated, not than a baby, but like I think how it's, I don't know, it doesn't stress me to like deal with or be there because you know it's for the greater good. It's the way that you actually get something done. You're not going to hurt yourself, and I think that's maybe what you worry about is that other people don't necessarily do that, and
yeah,
it's different, but at the same time, if you approached it how other people would with like some of the stuff, you just wouldn't be able to do it, I don't think.
I think that the hard stuff when you're doing I'm usually filming projects where it's just, be like myself doing the writing, and then with nowadays, you know, on the recent projects, you've had quite a big team of folk that are kind of there to work on it as well. And you try to go through the process, especially when it's more technical tricks, or it's like trying to get through it and trying to stay healthy enough to do the next, to do the next day and the next day. So there is a bit of a fear of just trying. It's not necessarily just a fear of hurting myself it's like a fear of hurting myself so I can't do the next one, the next thing. So you're trying to just make sure that you do it like perfect when you get that,
I guess you prioritize everything as well, don't you? Typically, projects, you start off with the easiest thing and you slowly build the whole way through. And stuff. And sometimes like
people don't realize.
Yeah, if you're starting something, you want to start off with the easy stuff, and then maybe about halfway you start kind of getting in the sort of bigger stuff. And the more you get on film, the more that you have to motivate you to push for the last stuff.
It's funny actually how much thinking of like how much motivation you get at the end of it. Like Epucuen, for instance, like how you maybe do like 1 or 2 tricks each day throughout the sort of 20 days that we were there, and then the last day there was like 5 tricks or 6 tricks or something.
Trying to get the film done.
Yeah,
the joy of a deadline.
Yeah.
So I hate that.
It's good though. It can be productive though. It's amazing what like a little bit of that does to get you going.
I think you need it though, because like, I don't know, I speak for probably all of us, sort of try and be a bit perfectionists here, and you worry about all the little details, and unless you've got a deadline, you're going to be worrying about those details forever. And just changing and changing and changing.
Yeah, for sure. That's another thing I was going to ask. Robbie was, you've obviously shot loads of different stuff, riding stuff, all sorts of corporate stuff, I'm sure, back in the day. How does it compare in terms of like getting shots and stuff? When you're talking about getting that balance of like, when you're filming, say Danny, for example, you're not going to get a second chance to shoot it. How do you sort of get that balance right between
being creative and trying to
basically whether to pull focus or some sort of technical shot to basically make sure that
I guess
when Danny does it, you capture something and getting.
I say sometimes you sort of pushed it a little bit. Like the shots aren't always that straightforward. I think the gimbal stuff and Steadicam stuff before has always been some of it's been pretty hard. Never do pull focuses though, very rarely.
What is pull focus to people who are...
Pull focus is when you manually follow Danny with the focus ring, so you're slowly turning it as he comes closer or further away. But you've got the risk of, if you mess that up, he goes out of focus and then the shot's pretty ruined. So the consequence is quite high. Whereas the gimbal, at least, if you're doing like a gimbal or Steadicam shot, at least if you slightly pan, you might clip feet or the head a tiny bit, which is pretty bad, but you're less
still
likely.
Usable.
I mean, that's something where I'm, our relationship over the last few years, it's like you kind of learn to completely trust, I completely trust Robbie with
like if you're going to be sending something, especially if it's scary, that it's going to
Yeah, you don't want to see somebody getting too sort of fancy, and he's away in the bushes somewhere. He's away in the bushes trying to. Oh yeah, that's looking good. You want to just sort of make sure the writing's showing to scale, and you're, but that's why I work. Have you ever had
any moments where like, I can't think of one where you've maybe like not pressed record or something?
There's got to be one. Trying to think of an example. Cascadia, there was one where I clipped your feet in a shot, but because I put 4 GoPros on the Movi, on the gimbal, just for that sort of situation. Do you remember it was that rooftop where you skidded down on the red rooftop, hopped onto the wall, and then free tapped into the lower rooftop?
Oh yeah,
and we had like the 4K angle, the 1080 angle.
Oh yeah, I do remember. But it was a really quick movement.
Yeah, it was like super subtle. It was like maybe clipped your head by like an inch or something. But there was another camera that I think we used instead anyway, so it was fine.
Oh, that was such a fun project to work on.
Yeah, it's Cascadia and Gran Canaria for GoPro. Yeah, which has recently become your most viewed video ever. It's been a bit of a dark horse.
Yeah, it's random.
During lockdown, people started watching it again. It's had over 100 million, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, that was a fun one, wasn't it? It's just...
I think that's probably one of the best, just for like enjoyment. We had such a good crew from GoPro just feeding us every day as well, so it's pretty ideal.
Beats going to Greg's when we're working, when it's just us.
Tapas instead of Greg's and Starbucks every day.
Yeah.
What's when it comes to viral videos, don't want you to say like, do you need to give us like a complete formula and blueprint, but you've obviously got a bit of a track record. Well, both of these have a bit of a track record for making viral videos. What is the sort of standout things that you sort of look to always include in a video to make sure it resonates with the masses?
That's a good question, isn't it? I mean, I'd say from my side, I'm lucky that Trials seems to be quite relatable to the masses. Well, from our side, we're obviously all writers, and it's not overly technical. It's not kind of gone down. I mean, it is possible to do the kind of writing where you're doing the sort of bar spins, tail whips, opposite spins, all this kind of different stuff. Whereas I kind of quite like to find something that's sort of fairly straightforward and practical, kind of writing wise. Location makes a huge difference. Ideally, if you're going to go out and shoot a video, the easiest way to do it is to find a location where all the writing's in one place. So if for whatever reason you're not feeling doing a big trick that day, or the weather conditions aren't quite right for doing some of the higher stuff, you can just move over and work on like another part that day. That's always a quick and easy one. Location, what would you say? Location, then finding like creative, kind of cool writing, ideally with some technical stuff, either balance or some sort of good amplitude. I find doing like a big drop to flat's an easy way of...
I guess you use the term bang for your buck.
Yeah, bang for your buck, yeah. I mean,
big exposure, big drops, big gaps,
start doing drops that are like 10 foot plus, because not many folk enjoy or doing them, and they're relatively straightforward depending on what they are, up to a certain height, but they definitely add something good. Telling a wee story helps as well, doesn't it?
I think emotion, like creating something that's gonna either make somebody question like, how did that happen? How did you do that? Or even give somebody the fear. Yeah. I guess it's such a simple one, like the slabs.
Funny that, isn't it? That people, it's quite fascinating psychology that people, I guess it's kind of like the same as watching a horror film, isn't it? Where basically the feeling like people get a buzz off feeling uneasy, essentially, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess you want to share something like with someone else to see if they get the same reaction to you. Yeah. And I think if you can create a video that gives you a reaction, then you're more likely to share it with someone else to see.
I suppose that's the nature of viral, isn't it? It's emotion.
Yeah. It is triggering something in someone. And I guess there are different videos of yours will
it's definitely
not necessarily be triggering the same emotions. And I suppose like Cascadia we talked about, which is like massive exposure, slabs, Ridge has got a lot of that as well.
It's kind of there's easy emotions to tap into, I think. I mean, being on the edge of like Cascadia and the slabs, for instance, The ridge as well. It's kind of, the ridge is somewhere in between, but there's like a fear of heights is an easy emotion to tap into.
I think everyone can experience it, can't they?
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so good with it.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it's harder to start tapping into the more like astonishment and disbelief, you know, like especially if you're going down the sort of street riding genre and you're trying to do something that's sort of going to work on a level where it's just out and out amazing riding. You have to work very hard for that, you know. Yeah. I sometimes will look at skateboarding and BMX videos where I'm completely blown away by what they're doing. It's completely just on a different level, but sometimes it can be hard to relate to, I think, for people out with that scene, just because it's either so technical or, don't know, it's maybe packaged up in a different way kind of thing. But
yeah, I guess sometimes it's not necessarily like all technical, all scary. It's like there can be a mixture.
If you tell a wee story with it or something, and then the music's a huge part. The music and the cut is a huge part. You know, if you cut the film to the emotion of the music, you'll definitely tap into folks' subconscious a lot better. You know, it'll rise up on the big stuff and slow it down in the slow stuff and all that kind of thing. So
yeah, it can sometimes be like
it's like a real art.
Not just the fact that the music like accompanies the song, the riding so well. Sometimes I think like one bonus that you can sometimes get with a video is like actually just introducing somebody to a new band or songs, like a huge bonus to like give. And I think you've probably done that in some of the stuff you've done before. So what's your what are the next projects you got coming up, boys? Never ending. Well, obviously you can talk about X Games. I guess you don't want to give too much away, but X Games, I'll maybe get Robbie to explain to the listeners and viewers what the X Games video contest that you guys have been working on actually is.
So the X Games video contest, it's the first year they've run it. They've done it for years with skateboarding, real street, real BMX as well, and ski, snowboard as well, moto. And this year's the first mountain bike one, which is quite cool. Just a filmer and a rider make a video that has to be 1 minute 30, and yeah, gets judged.
Easy as that.
You'd think 1 minute 30 would be quite straightforward.
Yeah, so it's obviously it's essentially like an online video contest.
Yeah.
And it's yourself plus 4 other riders, is it?
5, I think.
It's like DJ Brandt. I will get this guy's name. Is it Braga? Vestovic. Vero Sandler,
Cam Zink,
and Cam Zink,
and the best
Brandon Semenek.
Oh God, yeah. I thought you were going to say Danny. Brandon Semenek and Danny.
Yeah, I mean we kind of got drafted in kind of last minute to the contest because Fabio Widmer unfortunately had a crash in his motorbike and broke his foot. So we kind of got was it November, late November? I think you heard about it in the middle of or start of November, but nothing was confirmed until the end. Oh yeah.
So then we had sort of December and January.
Yeah, so you obviously spent the last few weeks shooting that. Won't get into specifics about tricks and stuff, but how's it been shooting?
It's been a hard one.
Stuff.
It's been tough.
In the Welsh winter.
It's been tough.
I think, well, the mixture of me having a newborn baby, and I think Danny,
Danny
also
losing my mind. For some reason on the X Games one, it was definitely hard to get my mind in check. You know, I don't know why. It just wasn't the fear switch. It was just difficult to click, and I don't know if it's just just trying to film in the countryside in Wales in January with like wet run-ups. I don't like that. I don't like it when things are harder than they look. You know, that's like if you're making a film. Yeah, if you're making a film, you want to go for, you say, bang for your buck. You want to go for things that are look impressive, but hopefully they were as hard as they looked. But trying to work with muddy run-ups and you know, just cold, pretty sort of miserable days for everyone. I mean, although we did get, well,
we've had every
it's been snowing quite a lot, lots of rain. to, flooding even down here. But we've had some sunny spells as well, so it's not
short days is obviously hard as well.
Yeah.
Suddenly, like, I don't think we really factored that in when we were deciding to shoot it, where it was like, we've got like 2 weeks, but 2 weeks in the winter in Wales is basically like 1 week.
2 weeks, or was it longer? When did we start?
Started as the beginning of
second
January.
Week.
Second week of January. So it has been
it's
quite
been like almost a month then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a good chunk.
It's funny how like you can take 2 days to shoot video like the slabs, and then a month to shoot a video like this X Games part,
or
which
4
is
days.
like
4 days to do one
third
trick.
of the length. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it was tempting to just put the slabs in as our as our competition entry.
Cool.
But
how do you feel? Do you think it changes the mindset of when you actually? Because usually when you're making a video, it's very much like a standalone piece.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst people will make comparisons to other videos, it's never directly, and by its very definition, a competition like it is in this X Games thing. Or do you think it's not really being a factor for you too much?
You kind of, I mean, like I'm not personally, I don't consider myself a competitive person. But you want to also, I want to do my riding justice, and I want to, do it for, as a team, try to kind of do the best we can. But you kind of want to put in something that represents your riding. And I think we've managed to do that, but it was pretty tough.
I think it's also like the fact that it's for X Games, like in our, well, not in what we mostly focus on, but it's been such like an inspiration for the years.
Sure.
Like X Games is, like when we were all kids, that was the sort of one bit of extreme sports, action sports that we could actually get to watch, really.
Yeah.
Competitively anyway. So I think it's pretty cool just to do it for that, and you don't want to do it disjustice.
No, definitely not.
Cool to see everyone's part as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to sort of think of.
It's not really. I think with Action Sports Wales, there is an element of competition. I think, like, I don't know. It doesn't really. I don't think anyone that's entering that will really be like too stressed about necessarily winning that. It's all about just doing the best. Yeah.
Just best part. It makes me laugh. It makes me laugh about being involved in like a real MTB competition obviously I'm a mountain bike rider, but they sort of trials sort of orientated, let's say. So, I think
the term that our mates Dave and George uses, trials geek, isn't it?
Trials geek, yeah, exactly. So I've definitely tried to just represent, when you're up against Cam Zink, you're not going to go and or Braga, who are every other competitor. You're not going to go and send a big, any big jumps.
Of riders to, I guess it's everyone's just going to kind of do their thing with it. And I think that's why it's quite a cool mixture of people within that, because it's like quite a few different styles.
I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what,
I don't know how you could judge it. It's going to be such a weird one for you. That. Yeah, because it's such like a different selection. You've got people that do the most insane combo tricks, the ones that do the biggest jumps, and then Danny that rides along like skinny stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if we did anything on skinny stuff really. Probably don't mention it.
Oh, yeah. There you go. There's some teasers going on there.
I think you could probably guarantee that I was going to try to ride along something.
Yeah, Danny does a full like slope style then. Yeah. One of the things I was going to do, it's a bit of a shameless plug stroke, putting the feelers out. We were talking about one of the things you're obviously wanting to do in the future is buy a new farm stroke house compound kind of place. Mm-hmm. It's not been going so well of late, but that's kind of quite key into like, it's not necessarily a video thing, but it's kind of your next, what you're looking to do next, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely sort of thinking about what I'd like to do in the next few years, and what countries I'd like to stay in. I think staying in Scotland kind of makes sense for me. I had thought about moving to sunnier climates, different places, but all my friends and family are back home, and there's just so much untapped kind of riding there that I'd still like to kind of go and do. So the dream would be to try to find like a house with some outbuildings, ideally like a small farm with some land that I can start sort of making some content from home. I think just seems like an obvious thing to do. It'd be nice not to maybe have to travel so much to make some of the videos all the time, and also maybe give some younger riders an opportunity to make films or even hold competitions there, you know, whether it's, I don't know, I'd love to do anything, you know, like hold a slope style event there, I don't know, goodness knows what else. So anybody listening to this knows of any farms or nice houses going for sale.
Yeah, you just happen to be sitting on a farm, fancy downsizing.
Yeah,
anytime soon.
Yeah, hit me up.
Let us know.
Hit me up.
We should start an email specific for that. It's like, find Danny a house at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Let them take it off your hands.
Oh, it'd be so good. Get some ostriches, a few llamas, a couple of goats. Perfect.
E-bike loop.
Oh, e-bike loop. Yeah, it has to be in the, ideally it's got some hills to go e-biking as well.
Okay, so what's the checklist? It's a farm with at least 4 or 5 bedrooms for people to come stay.
Maybe another outhouse for some more.
Just another house. Plus a building that you could set up trial stuff, plus hills on the doorstep.
Yeah, woodland, maybe a hillside on the back.
The list getting longer.
Lake, anything else?
Oh yeah, loch. Yeah, I mean loch. Yeah, that'd be quite good. And
oh well,
that'll do.
I'm sure you could maybe give up. Like you can maybe give up on 1 or 2 of those points if there are other boxes
somewhere around Stirlingshire, Perthshire, kind of Highlands, maybe down People's Way. Who knows?
Sweet. Well, there you go. Cool. Well, we wanted to keep it relatively short because I'm sure we'll probably do the podcast with you guys maybe separately where we'll talk about yourselves a little bit more in depth. But yeah, then we'll call it there. Cool. Thank you for coming on. Where should the guys find the slabs and hit you guys up if they haven't already, which I'm pretty sure they have? But
I suppose you can see it if you just type in Danny MacAskill the slabs into YouTube, and there's film, and then there's behind the scenes 15-minute clip of how we made it, and then other stuff in there that you can go and have a look at as well. So yeah, nice.
And Robbie, where should people find you online or your company online?
Yeah, go wearepeny.com or Instagram, I guess. Yeah, Robbie_Meade.
Nice. Well, there you go. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks. Keen.